Very unexpected news. Loudly crying face, the painful secret of Blackpink. Rose loudly crying face, the heartbreaking truth behind her smile. In the ocean of voices that make up the global phenomenon of K-pop, there is one tone that is instantly recognizable. It is a voice that carries a unique, golden texture, a sound that feels like a delicate balance between immense power and fragile vulnerability. To the world, Rose is the main vocalist of Blackpink, a fashion icon who walks the red carpets of the Met Gala and graces the stages of Coachella. She appears to be a figure carved from pure starlight, existing in a realm of glamour that is untouchable. But if you listen closely to the silence between her notes, you will hear a different story. It is not a story of effortless fame. It is the narrative of Park Chaeyoung, a girl who crossed an ocean to chase a dream that almost broke her, and a woman who had to lose herself to finally find out who she truly was. The story begins not in the neon lights of Seoul, but in the quiet suburbs of Melbourne, Australia. Park Chaeyoung was just a regular schoolgirl who loved art and played the guitar in her bedroom until late at night. She was not born into the industry. According to various media interviews, she never truly believed she could become a star. It was a distant fantasy, something that happened to other people, not to a girl like her. When her father jokingly encouraged her to audition for YG Entertainment in Sydney, she went without expectation. She was merely 16 years old. In a twist of fate that would change the trajectory of her life forever, she ranked first out of 700 applicants. But this victory was the beginning of a profound solitude. At 16, an age when most teenagers are worried about school exams and prom dates, Rose had to make a decision that no child should have to make. She had to leave her family, her friends, and the only home she had ever known to move to South Korea alone. In the Netflix documentary Light Up the Sky, Rose spoke about this transition with a heartbreaking honesty. She described the terror of arriving in a dorm room with strangers, realizing that she was thousands of miles away from her mother and father. The initial excitement quickly faded into a deep, aching homesickness. She was a foreigner in her own ancestral land, navigating a culture she knew but had not lived in, and carrying the crushing weight of isolation. The trainee years were a brutal test of endurance. While Rose possessed a unique vocal tone, she entered a system that demanded perfection in every area. She was not a trained dancer. She had to learn to move her body with the precision of a professional, often practicing until the early hours of the morning. According to various media reports and her own recollections, the pressure was suffocating. Every month, there were evaluations where trainees could be cut and sent home. Rose lived in a constant state of anxiety, terrified that her dream would end before it even began. She often felt she was lagging behind the other members who had been training longer. She mentioned in interviews that there were nights she would cry into her pillow, overwhelmed by the fear that she wasn't good enough, that she had made a mistake by leaving Australia. There was a specific, poignant darkness during these years. It wasn't just the physical exhaustion, it was the loss of identity. She was no longer just Chaeyoung. She was a product being refined. In the documentary, she recalled playing her guitar until her fingers blistered, not for an audience, but to keep her own soul alive. Music, which had always been her joy, was becoming her job, and the fear of losing her love for it was a silent battle she fought in the corners of the practice room. She was stripping away parts of her normal life, her childhood, and her freedom, gambling everything on a future that was not guaranteed. When Blackpink finally debuted in 2016, the world saw only the triumph. They saw the records breaking and the charts topping. But for Rose, the ascent brought a new kind of struggle. As the main vocalist, the scrutiny on her voice was intense. The industry is often cruel to those who are unique, and Rose faced criticism from those who misunderstood her stylistic technique. She had to stand on stage and sing while battling the internal voice of imposter syndrome. Despite the adoration of millions, Verified interviews from this era suggest she struggled with self-confidence. She often questioned if she was deserving of the massive love she received. The lyrics of her solo song, On the Ground, later revealed the depth of this emptiness. She sang about working her whole life to get high, only to realize that everything she needed was down on the ground. This was a confession. It was an admission that fame had not filled the void in her heart. In some ways, it had widened it. The pressure to be perfect took a toll. Fans have often noted moments in behind-the-scenes footage where Rose appears deeply exhausted, staring into space while chaos ensues around her. This is the reality of burnout. It is the loneliness of being surrounded by people but feeling completely alone. The constant travel, the lack of sleep, and the inability to see her family for long periods created a silent emotional deficit. There were times, according to her own reflections, when she felt hollowed out, giving every piece of herself to the fans and having nothing left for herself. However, it is in the face of this hollowness that Rosé's true strength shines. She did not let the industry harden her heart. People love Rose not just for her voice, but for her radical gentleness. In a world that rewards aggression and ego, she remained soft. Stories from staff members and interactions caught on camera show a person who is deeply polite, constantly bowing, and attentive to those around her. She is known for her emotional transparency. She is not afraid to cry in front of fans, bridging the gap between idol and human. When she met a fan who had saved money to see her, Rose wept. It was not a performance. It was a genuine reaction of gratitude and disbelief that she could mean so much to someone. Her kindness is not a weakness. It is a deliberate choice to remain human in an inhuman environment. Her journey to solo stardom was another battle for autonomy. It took years for her solo debut to happen, a delay that caused much anxiety for her and her fans. But when she finally released and later her massive collaborative hit, APT, with Bruno Mars, she proved something vital. She proved that she was not just a member of a group. She was an artist with her own vision. The record-breaking success of her solo work, verified by Billboard charts and global streaming numbers, was a vindication. It was the moment the girl from Melbourne finally stood tall, not as a trainee terrified of evaluation, but as a global superstar commanding the industry on her own terms. Yet, even with the world at her feet, Rose remains grounded. She speaks often of her desire to simply sing, to tell stories, and to be honest. Her future goals, as she has hinted in recent interviews, are less about breaking more records and more about finding artistic fulfillment and personal peace. She is in a process of rediscovering Park Chaeyoung, the girl who loves her dog Hank, who loves to eat good food, and who misses her mom. She is learning to balance the persona of Rose with the heart of Chaeyoung. As we look at her today, standing on the precipice of a new chapter in her career, we do not just see an idol. We see a survivor. We see a young woman who walked into the fire of the K-pop industry and refused to let it burn away her sensitivity. She turned her loneliness into melodies that heal others. She turned her fear into a performance that inspires millions. Her story is a reminder that the path to your dreams is often paved with tears that no one sees. It teaches us that you can be terrified and still be brave. You can feel small and still fill a stadium with your presence. Rosé's legacy is not just in her gold records or her luxury brand ambassadorships. It is in the quiet courage of holding onto your guitar when the world tries to take everything else away. And as the music fades and the cheers of the crowd turn into a memory, we are left with a single powerful image. It is not the image of the superstar in the spotlight. It is the image of a girl sitting on the floor of a practice room, far from home, wiping away a tear and choosing to sing one more song. In that silence, we find a profound respect. We realize that the most beautiful voice is the one that trembles but never stops singing. And for that, We offer her our deepest, most silent applause.